Hey guys, welcome back to the compound. We're back in the workshop again with another Dominion repaint. And this week we'll be taking on the massive Mattel Therizinosaurus. So this figure is pretty awesome and imposing and has lots of nicely sculpted details all over that can really pop with just a little extra paint in the right places. So I'll be doing a fairly simple deco on this guy using a couple reference photos of some promo pics that have recently surfaced online. So using these as inspiration, I think we can get this guy looking a little closer to these promo pics while also keeping the deco fairly toyetic. Since he has all this extra articulation in the arms, which can be a bit of a challenge to paint, I want to avoid painting those. So instead, we're going to play off that dark plastic he's molded in and be primarily dry brushing the entire figure. There won't be any need for the airbrush, so for those of you wanting to tackle this one, it should be pretty easy for you to pick up on what I'm doing, since dry brushing is sort of the easiest way to take a figure to the next level. With all that said, let's go ahead and get started. So what I want to do first is cover up that green-gray skin and the white stripes. I'm using the airbrush for this just to speed up this step, but if you're following along and painting by hand, just go at it with some matte black paint. It's not important to try and match the dark blue plastic, since it will all eventually get covered up. You just want a dark base coat to build off of, so the entire body needs to be dark. With that done, now we can start to build up the grays, and since I want his skin to be a pale grayish color, I want to start off with the darkest gray I have and then gradually work my way up to the lightest gray for the final highlight color. So as I've covered before in past videos, when it comes to primarily just dry brushing, I like to work my way up through a variety of different shades of a particular color to help gradually build up and add depth and layers to the skin tone. So just pick, the 3 or 4 colors you want and work your way up from the darkest to the lightest. Remember, each color you work up to, the pressure you use and the paint on your brush should get lighter and lighter as you go on to create a nice clean transition. So the promo pic of the Therizinosaurus has some brightly colored deco on his face, so to try and translate that onto this figure, I'm going to grab some color shift acrylics and start to work my way through these colors, starting with green color shift first, and then just lightly dry brushing a layer on the top of the head, and then work my way over to a teal color shift, and then finish it off with a blue color shift, just lightly hitting all of the raised areas. These paints are great for adding some flair and bright colors to dinos with brightly colored decos. With that done, I'm going to jump in with some yellow ochre paint and paint the beak. Now I'll start with this yellow ochre base, which is bright, but I will add a shade wash later to darken it up, and then I will dry brush over the raised areas with a very light pass of dark gray. Now I'll jump in with my flesh mix, that is beige and scarlet red, and I will paint the inside of the mouth, just being careful not to get any slop on the outside of the mouth area. I just want to go slow and steady, and always remember to keep the paint thin. With all that done, now I'm going to start laying down the red for the feathers, starting off first, of course, with a dark brick red, and just quickly go in and hit all of the raised areas and try and blend it in with the existing red that's on there from the factory paint. I'll then go in with a slightly brighter red and hit all the highlight spots at the very edges of the feathers. So now I'll hold my breath and grab some yellow ochre and carefully pick out the eyes and then add a black slit. If you're painting by hand and you wanted to make your life a little easier, you could carefully paint around the factory eyes and not even have to fool with these. This is another hold your breath moment. Grab some off-white and pick out the teeth. Again, I am trying to be as careful as possible to cut down on any cleanup work. I'll then take that same yellow ochre paint I used for the beak and mix it down with some light gray and very lightly add a dry brushed layer across the skin just to give it a slight yellow tint. It's very faint and the paint on my brush is very dry. It's important the brush is super dry when you're blending to give a natural transition, and you want to avoid going in all at once. I'll then take some yellow ochre wash and wash the teeth to give them that yellowed, grimy look. and then jump back in with some bright red and do one final pass with the light red just to make sure I've hit all of the feathers that I want to be red and that they're nicely blended into the skin. A few final details, we'll be painting the claws black and then giving them just a simple dry brushing of a light gray going against the grain. I'll then dip back into the color shift paints and just add a few random dots here and there all along the colored area on top of his head just to add a few extra pops of color around that area. I do wish the sculpt had a better mix of scales and feathers, but you know, it is what it is, and sometimes we got to work with what we're given. But aside from sealing him up, this big bird is done. And of course, here is a little before and after shot of the figure, and he was definitely a fun one to paint. We're also going into summertime here in Georgia, so it's the time of the year where my backyard is green and pretty, so I can go outside and enjoy the nice weather and get some natural outdoor shots of this guy. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and it has helped inspire you in your repaint journey. If you tried this one at home, remember to tag me over on Instagram at the Jurassic Park compound, because I always love to see the repaints that you guys can come up with. For more Jurassic related content, you know where to find me. Links will be in the description box below. You guys take care, and I'll see you around the compound.